This was an idea I floated in my last NHL recap video, and I said that I wanted to talk about some players that have improved their stock these playoffs, and players that have hurt their stock in these playoffs. So basically, like, big name players that have underperformed, or guys that have elevated their status in the league because of their performance in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. And I'm going to alternate here, good to bad, like go back and forth. I'm going to start with who I think a player is having perhaps the best playoff performance, maybe of any single player left in the playoffs right now. That's Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk has really made a name for himself in these playoffs with Florida. If you just look at the position Florida was in, they were the second wild card spot. They take down, multiple teams. They've been the underdog the whole way. I picked against them, against the Canes. They've been handling the Canes in OT. It's been tight games, but they've come ahead. And the biggest name, one of the biggest reasons, obviously Bobrovsky is a huge story for the Panthers, but I tried to not put two players from the same team in the same category. Like, I'm not going to put two Dallas players, two Florida players, whatever, both in good. I'll have one in each category, one good, one bad, but I was trying to decide between Tkachuk and Bobrovsky, but I do feel like Tkachuk is really making a name for himself these playoffs, and Tkachuk was always kind of one of those borderline star guys in the NHL. Like, he was nearly a superstar, but not quite. He's always kind of been like a fringe superstar, but I think these playoffs he's really cementing himself as one of the premier players in the league. He's currently 4th in playoff points. I believe he's tied with a player that was eliminated, so he will presumably go up to 3rd. Through 14 games, Tkachuk has 7 goals, 11 assists for 18 points, and he is a plus 12. A plus 12. I think that is the highest plus minus of any player in the playoffs. Now, in a single game, plus minus doesn't really mean much, but over the course of 14 games, being a plus 12, it's showing that when Matthew Tkachuk is on the ice, the Florida Panthers are a very good team. And I think he got both overtime winners. I know he definitely got the Game 2 overtime winner. It's possible he got the Game 1 overtime winner as well. But I think in these playoffs, Matthew Tkachuk has really elevated his status in the NHL. Now, a player I want to talk about whose stock has fallen, and maybe this player's stock hasn't fallen super hard, but it definitely took a hit, mainly in the second round. Against Seattle, I talked about it a little bit. Jason Robertson, now he does have goals in back-to-back games in the Vegas series, so that's good. He might be getting back to form. But you have Jason Robertson, who just had an absolutely monster regular season. Through 82 games, he had 46 goals, 63 assists, 109 points. This guy had 109 points in the regular season, but he's played 15 playoff games and only got 15 points. 4 goals, 11 assists. I don't think he had any goals in round 2. And of his 4 goals, only one of those is an even strength goal. The other 3 were power play goals. So, is starting to come back, which could be a difference maker for them, but early on in the playoffs, I think he took a little bit of a hit. Now, someone I want to talk about for the good category, give me Philip Grubauer. And I think this is mainly about the Colorado series. Nobody picked Seattle to beat Colorado. Colorado had some issues, obviously, with injuries and things like that, but Grubauer, he really turned up against them, and I think that he's the reason Seattle took it as far as they did against the Stars. 903 in the playoffs. I saw a comment calling out, like, kind of criticizing that I said Grubauer having a 903 in the playoffs was good, but you can't just look at the stats. You have to, like, watch the games to see the context of those stats. Grubauer, especially against Colorado, but against the Stars too, was getting teed off against. Like, the defense was non-existent for very long stretches of both those series. And Seattle would be hemmed in their own zone for long stretches of time, and Grubauer would face 3, 4, 5 shots within a couple, within a close proximity, and he was making timely saves. And that's what allowed Seattle to beat Colorado. Colorado was teeing off on Grubauer. Now, obviously, you're facing that many shots. Some of them will get through, and obviously they lost in round 2. But I don't think that Seattle even gets to round 2, if not for Grubauer. And he's a guy that obviously Colorado didn't think they needed. They let him go, and then he beat them. So, I don't think he's been the best goalie of the playoffs by any means, but I definitely do think that he has earned back some respect for his playoff run for sure. Now let's talk about a guy that has lost some respect for his playoff run, and that is Artemi Panarin, somebody whose stock fell quite a bit these playoffs. Artemi Panarin, he's one of the alternate captains for the New York Rangers. In the regular season, he had 92 points in 82 games, 29 goals, 63 assists. The Rangers played 7 playoff games. He had 0 goals, 2 assists. That's it. This guy had 92 points in the regular season. He has 2 in the playoffs. He was a more than a point per game player in the regular season. What's 2 divided by 7? Like, I don't know, but he had a point like every other game basically. Just a complete no-show. And he's one of, like, the superstar faces of the New York Rangers. Like, he got an A, obviously. He was a complete no-show. And I'm pretty sure I got this right. It was kind of hard to find the exact totals for everybody, but I'm fairly confident that Panarin had the lowest point total of any forward for the Rangers in the playoffs. I think he was the lowest. Like, the 3rd and 4th line dudes had more points than Panarin, I'm pretty sure. I definitely think he took a pretty big hit to his reputation from these playoffs here. Just a total no-show. Now, a player that was very good these playoffs, Jack Hughes, New Jersey Devils. He played 12 games. The Devils went on a little bit of a Cinderella run that, many people didn't expect them to go on. And you have to remember, this is Jack Hughes' very first time in the playoffs. He's only 22 years old. 6 goals, 5 assists for 11 points through 12 games. Almost a point per game in the playoffs. And he was playing some pretty good defensive teams. But the cool thing about that is, of his 6 goals, 5 of those are even strength goals. So he Kaprizov. Kirill Kaprizov. I think we all remember that big contract dispute with Kaprizov. That was huge, huge news. You know, he was demanding all this money, this, that, and the other. You know, he wants to be treated like one of the best players in the league. Regular season, he only played 67 games. I think he had a little bit of an injury issue. But in 67 games, he gets 75 points, 40 goals, 35 assists. The Minnesota Wild go out in the first game of the playoffs. They only play 6 games. First round of the playoffs. They only play 6 games. In those 6 games, Kaprizov has 1 goal. That's it. 1 goal. And that goal was a power play goal. So the only thing Kaprizov did these entire playoffs was get a power play goal. He was a -3. And he was coming off the best season of his career, points-wise. Like, the season before this obviously was the best season of his career. He's a star in the league. He's the face of the team. Like, when you think of the Wild, you think Kaprizov. And he just was totally non-existent in the playoffs, kind of like Artemi Panarin. But Kaprizov as well, it looks like he might have been... No, I didn't watch the Wild series as much. I watched like 1 or 2 games, I think, but it looked like he might have been getting frustrated because he got 12 penalty minutes, so assuming those are all minors, through 6 games he took 6 penalties. A penalty per game from your top line scoring forward whose only goal is on a power play. That's just not good enough, and I definitely think he's going to maybe be under a bit more scrutiny next season because of that performance. Let's go back to the good Leon Draisaitl. Now, this is a guy who's already one of the top players in the league. Everybody knows Draisaitl's a monster. But in my opinion, he was the best player for the Oilers in these playoffs. You look at game 1 against Vegas, Draisaitl scores 4 goals. Now the Oilers do lose that game, but he gets 4 goals in 1 game, which is insane. Now McDavid leads the Oilers in points, but Draisaitl leads them in goals. And for all the criticism about the Oilers being dependent on the power play, McDavid only having 1 even strength goal, things like that. Draisaitl had 7 even strength goals, which leads the entire team. And he was the only forward on the Edmonton Oilers who had more even strength points than power play points. The only forward. Every other forward on the Oilers, their power play points more, but not Draisaitl. Through 12 games, he had 13 goals, 5 assists, and just, I think, yeah, he has 2 more years left on that team-friendly $8.5 million contract. I think Draisaitl's getting a massive bag. Massive bag, 11, 12 million at least. Draisaitl is a top 3, top 5 player in the league, and he's about to get paid like it, especially into these playoffs. To stick with the Oilers, though, we're going to transition to the bad. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He had a career year in the regular season this year, 104 points in 82 games. 104 points. Easily the best year of his entire career, 37 goals, 67 assists. But then you get to the playoffs, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins plays 12 games, 1 goal, 10 assists. He is a -6. And through 12 games, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins only has 23 shots. Playing mainly on the second line, he only has 23 shots, which through 12 games is less than 2 shots per game. I don't know how many total team shots the Oilers averaged, but I feel like it has to be the 30-ish, 40-ish range. They shoot a lot. He's averaging less than shots a game. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 23 shots, is the second lowest in the entire top 9 of the Oilers. So Nugent-Hopkins was your second line winger center. And there's every single player on the third line has more shots than him, I think. Or there's like one player that has like 2 or 3 shots less than him, and he's a third liner. But a majority of the third line had more shots than Nugent-Hopkins, so to go from that monster regular season to kind of just a no-show in the playoffs is a little bit shocking. Now I want to talk about players made a massive name for himself these playoffs, easily maybe the second best, what I would call like a riser, or like right there with Matthew Tkachuk is Roope Hintz for the Dallas Stars, who he's looked like an extremely dynamic scoring option all over the ice. He leads all players in playoff points. But here's the thing about Roope Hintz that's very impressive. He leads all players in playoff points, but the players who are right there with him, the guys who are beneath him, he has less time on ice than them. So he's doing more in less time. So the number 2 points getter to the playoffs is still McDavid, even though he's been out. McDavid was averaging 23 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time. And like I said, Matthew Tkachuk is 4th. Matthew Tkachuk is averaging 22 minutes, 52 seconds of ice time. So these guys are both easily over 20 minutes, both over 22 minutes, right? Tkachuk's almost at 23, McDavid's almost at 24. Roope Hintz is leading all players in playoff points. He is averaging 18 minutes and 27 seconds of ice time. He is not even close to 20 minutes. He is a minute and a half under 20 minutes. Dallas is down 0-2 in this series. You think they're going to start maybe giving Roope Hintz some extended shifts, maybe double shifting him, because it could get pretty scary if they do. He has 22 points through 15 games, 10 goals, 12 assists. Now the last player I want to talk about for the bad, somebody who hurt their stock, is Austin Matthews. Through the last 5 games of the playoffs, Austin Matthews had 0 goals, 2 assists. Less than half a point per game through the last 5. And those, those were the elimination games they were facing. And he just had absolutely no pushback. They lost 4-1 to the Panthers, right? Because they got 1 game back. They won game 4, I think, and then the Panthers beat them in game 5. So that entire series against the Panthers, 0 goals, 2 assists. He's supposed to be the best player on the Leafs. He is one of, if not the face of the league. It's like him and McDavid are the 2 faces of the NHL. They're on all the marketing materials. They're on the covers of the video games. 2 points in 5 games. His team is facing elimination. No pushback. Just completely gone down the stretch. And he's making more than $11 million a year. Austin Matthews himself accounts for 15% of the Toronto Maple Leafs cap. And he's entering into UFA after next season. Like, next season could be his last year in the Leafs. I mean, it's possible they trade him next year. If he doesn't want to extend his contract, we could see Matthews on a different team next year. But I think he definitely hurt his reputation a little bit, because he's supposed to be one of the best goal scorers in the league. He's won the Rocket Richard. He's had 15 goal seasons. 2 assists, no goals through the last 5 games in a series that's going to send you home. It's just unacceptable. Finally, I want to end on a high note. I wanted to put in Vegas guy here. There's a couple names I considered. Mark Stone, going back from injury, has like 11 points in 9 games or whatever. That was a good, choice for me. Jack Eichel has been amazing. Aiden Hill's a big story of these playoffs, but I think the player I really wanted to highlight is William Karlsson. In the expansion year 2017, William Karlsson set a career high. This is a career bottom 6 guy. He comes into Vegas. In the expansion draft, he immediately becomes a top 6 center. Gets 78 points. Is amazing in the playoffs. He has that between the leg goals against the San Jose Sharks. Between the legs goal against the San Jose Sharks. But then, after that high mark, he's had down years. 56 points, 46 points, 39 points, 35 points, 53 points. He's going down. He's still a decent middle 6 center, but we have Jack Eichel now, who's obviously the 1C. Chandler Stevenson at 2C has been absolutely amazing. So William Karlsson, he's getting his groove back in these playoffs a little bit. He's played 13 games, 7 goals, 3 assists, 10 points. He has an amazing forecheck. He's been one of our best defensive forwards, him and Stone. He's just getting the puck off people. He's on odd man rushes. He's always making the right defensive play. And for all that forechecking, all that defense he's doing, he only has 2 penalty minutes. He's only taken 1 penalty through 13 games. So I think for me, he's a guy who's improving his stock. Everybody knows Eichel's good. Everybody knows Stone's good. But Karlsson's had down years. He's been criticized for it, and he's bounced back in these playoffs, and it looked like the William Karlsson of old. So that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think about these picks that I made. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you feel like I left somebody out that's either hurt their stock or improved it. But if you did like the video, please leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.